Great job, Ronnie. I'm excited, and I'm so excited, I'm going to put you on scholarship.
Well, you're not a walk-on anymore.
He's on scholarship, too.
We're about to put Keontae Anderson on scholarship. His mother, Tia, works here. He doesn't know it either. How we doing? We couldn't do a lot, but you're local, and we were able to get out and say Happy Mother's Day to you.
Oh, thank you so much. I just got presented with the best Mother's Day gift ever. You're on a full scholarship for ECU.
I cried.
If you're anything like me, or I guess if you have a heart, these videos that circulated college football social media pages every year were some of the most heartwarming pieces of content that I actually look forward to seeing. And it's because when you think about it, these kids are ones that defied the odds, didn't listen to any of the naysayers, and took the ultimate gamble on themselves to prove to the world that they did in fact belong on a college football field, and that they do deserve to be playing in front of thousands and tens of thousands of fans, and some of the first looks into the NFL that comes with performing at this level. It just made for the perfect athlete feel-good saga. But after this season, and for the foreseeable future, the walk-on to scholarship dream story is no longer a realistic possibility. One of the many changes to the realm of college football that we are starting to see. And a few months ago, at the start of the college football season, I shared with you some of the effects the transfer portal was having on the landscape of college football. Now in that video, I mentioned how the spread of talent is actually evening out the playing field and putting an end to some of the long-lasting dominance of our great college football dynasties. And as the season went on, well,
oh, there he goes, and there it is. Touchdown. And they're on their way to Route 66 to nothing.
Genty, right up the middle. Genty spinning. Genty still on his feet to the goal line. Put him up. Touchdown. 44 yards away from the ticket. He got it. He got it.
And what an investment they've made in Diego Pavia. This attitude, this program, and the biggest win on the West End. Vanderbilt takes down #1 Alabama.
there certainly seems to be some truth to that idea. I mean, Alabama is getting ready for basketball in early December, and that's only happened twice since college football has adopted a playoff model. But as this season wraps up and we begin the slate of this year's bowl games, and of course as we begin to dive headfirst into this year's college football playoff, the very thing the great powerhouse programs across the nation fear the most is beginning to form: the transfer portal. The transfer portal being added to college sports has resulted in teammates becoming rivals, roster depth becoming scarcity, and teams becoming almost irrecognizable year in and year out. And the portal is something that everyone has been talking about over the past couple of months, including me. And watching this season play out, some of the effects we anticipated to see definitely showed up. I mean, in a year where Ohio State forces their quarterback to transfer after losing to their rival Michigan, just for the quarterback that transferred in to lose almost the same way. Also, on the same exact day, their former quarterback completed a comeback versus a top 10 opponent. And in a year where Indiana reaches 10 wins, where SMU gets ranked as high as 9, and in a year that hasn't really shown us a consensus #1 overall team, along with the fact that Alabama didn't even make the playoffs, kinda reflects perfectly on how the portal is bringing unpredictability to the college football landscape. In today's college football, it's almost impossible to preserve these long-lasting powerhouse programs like we've become accustomed to seeing across college athletics. And there's a comment I want to share with y'all from my last video on college football that I think sums up the landscape today perfectly, and it reads, "Parity is the new norm." And when you think about it, this whole season has been nothing but parity, where 13 teams fall out of the top 25 rankings from week 1 to week 16. But the parity that resides in college football today extends further from the chaos in between the lines. In fact, the parity has just begun. On December 9th, the transfer portal was open, free for players to reopen their recruitment and test the waters in this new era of college football. By December 12th, nearly 1,700 athletes had entered their names. That number was nearly 4 times less throughout the entire portal open period in 2021. And like we saw in my other video, again, these transfers are coming from pretty much any and everywhere. By the morning of December 13th, programs like Texas A&M, Purdue, Arizona, Mississippi State were missing just around 15% of their rosters. And with the new roster limits set to take action in 2025, it's more like 20%. And some Group of 5 rosters saw some pretty big numbers as far as transfers as well. And of course that number is still growing and will be until the 28th of December. But what exactly does over 6% of college football players currently being in the transfer portal really mean for the landscape of college football? Well, look at these first week numbers of the fall semester portal period. Power conferences are almost doubling some of the Group of 5 conferences in the amount of transfers entering the portal through the first 3 days, with the SEC, arguably the best college football conference, leading the way. Now at this point in the transfer season, it is kind of hard to know exactly how these transfers will end up in net production for the Group of 5, but I imagine it will continue to follow the trend we found in my last video. I mean, I think I'd love some all-you-can-eat biscuits, whether if I ran really fast or not.
Tudor's Biscuit NIL, all you can eat. So if any of those guys that run really fast at Ohio State like Tudor's Biscuits, I promise you, all you can eat, all day.
But inside the power conferences, the teams succeeding the most through the portal so far are actually programs that have been outside the college football limelight for quite some time. Now we'll see how this all shakes up, but looking through the first week portal reports, 4 out of the top 5 schools in net production through the portal are teams that haven't even won their conference in over 10 years. And if Cam Newton was never born, it'd be more like 2 decades. I mean, really only half of the programs in the top 12 in net production have a nationally prominent football history. And this is simply because the era where coaches made promises of player development and a college lifestyle with maybe a chance to go pro if you just keep your head down and stick with me and work hard is officially over. In today's landscape of college football, with the accessibility to transfer at the push of a button, coupled with some of the crazy numbers in NIL we have all seen, has really brought forth a new era to college football. The era of free agency.
And these independent agents call these schools up that they know have money. And they say, what if Kevin gets in the portal? How much would you pay him? Oh, I'll pay him $150,000, and they'll go to the next school. What if Kevin got in the portal? What would you pay him? Oh, I'd give him $175. And then another school might say, oh, I'll give him $200. So now this independent agent DMs Kevin and says, call me, I got some deals for you. And then they talk, and he goes, if you get in the portal, I can get you $200,000. So these kids are not thinking about getting in the portal, but when they have these people call them and say, if you get in the portal, I'll give you $200,000. But that's what's going on in college football. And as much as we try to tell our players that and educate them, you know, when somebody's offering you that kind of money, it's still hard for these kids. We talked to our top 26 kids, they all have been offered a lot of money.
And with this amount of players jumping into the portal in just one fall period, for the first time in all of college sports history, some schools can and probably will build a big-time football program basically overnight. And to be honest, we've really already seen it happen. If you watch college football, you know about the story of Deion Sanders, Travis Hunter, Shador, and the Colorado football team. But what really even made this story come to life to begin with were the 86 athletes that transferred in over the past 2 years. And no, the Buffs haven't really reached national championship contention so far, but since the U-Haul, they're 13-11, 9-3 this season, and were really only one upset loss away from playing for an automatic bid in the college football playoffs, in comparison to their just 14 wins in the 4 years prior. And now with the new hire of NFL legend Bill Belichick, maybe UNC will follow this same pathway. They've already set up some visits with some pretty big names. And yeah, it took Hugh Freeze a little longer than overnight, but Auburn is one of the leaders in net production throughout this portal period. Perhaps they have found a way to fast track their success as well. And to further this free agency in college football, we're seeing things like college football playoff teams losing players to the portal before their literal biggest games in school history.
Oprah Beulah posted on Sunday to X that he is transferring from Penn State, and he does this now, 5 days, 6 days before their first playoff game as they host SMU. In his tweet, he mentions he hates that he's in this situation. And why is he in this situation? Because the transfer portal is open during the season and it's going to close December 28th. The NCAA has built an incredibly flawed system.
And yeah, it's gone as far for some schools to losing players that have even started for majority of the year. And I can't possibly ignore some of the outlandish demands that some players have openly made known for their next destinations.
And he said, you know what? I only caught so many passes, which was 8. I only caught 8 passes. So I'm going to go to Texas A&M. But I'm going to demand a goddamn... What is this list? Bro.
And to take it one more step further, we now have guys opting out of the NFL draft for prolonged years. And yes, every situation is different, but I have a strong feeling that pay cut they'll be taking at the next level isn't the most encouraging. So yeah, these schools really can build a pretty big time football unit overnight, but other years, some schools might not be so lucky. As we talked about in my last video, Florida State, the powerhouse program we've become accustomed to seeing, is pretty much over. Now at the time I made that video, they only lost a couple of games to some unranked opponents. But the biggest thing to mention is, this season occurred after an abundance of transferred in athletes. Now these portal windows really only open for a few weeks at a time at best, and this really only leaves coaches and football programs for that little of time to dissect and to really learn these players that actually decide to enter the portal. And misscouting players happens all the time. In fact, it's one of the legitimate reasons the portal was activated in the first place. But because we're in this new era of college football, because this free agency period can have so much weight on a program's performance the following season, if you misrecruit the wrong guy in the wrong spot, a powerhouse program having a 10-loss season is probably a pretty good outcome for those to follow making the same mistake. And to be fair, maybe this is why Saban decided to take the high road before the parity got too much and he ended up tarnishing his legacy, because his third transferred in quarterback can't hit a 3-step slant. And just how sustainable are these successful overnight programs anyway? Colorado was great this year, but Shedeur and Travis are league bound in May. And even with the outstanding duo, they only won 4 games after their first U-Haul of transfers. So yeah, you can build a powerhouse college football program faster than Santa delivering presents on Christmas morning. But with your players in line to start transferring away before they do, with other great programs popping up left and right, and with the overall parity inside this new landscape of college football, just how long will that dynasty last? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed. And hey, if you want more stories like this, I got one for you right here. And oh, you can subscribe if you want even more.